The topic tonight is titled The Purpose of Life, How to Live a Life That Matters. And here we hope that our panelists will answer some of the big questions, or at least address them. We would like to hear why we were created. What is our purpose in life? Where did we come from? Where are we going? And how do we know we're on the right track? And you're on the right track. Just have a seat. Good to see you tonight. And our panelists tonight are going to be introduced for the sake of time just by their name and the religion that they're representing. Their brief bios are in the brochure, so we'll hope that you'll take a look so you get to know them a little bit better. Our first panelist, and they will appear as they show in the brochure, which also we've tried to be historically correct in terms of when each one was revealed. So Sandy, Rabbi Axelrod, otherwise known by his name title here as Rabbi Axel Lard.
You did have to point that out.
I'm sorry. Even though it was my mistake, it was too good to pass up, so I'm sorry.
Did you pay extra for that?
Anyway, he's been with us since day one, so yeah, we can tease a little bit, yeah. So Rabbi, yeah, now he's done. He's resigning from everything. Oh dear. So representing Judaism for the last time here tonight is Rabbi Sandy Axelrod, and we're very, very happy to have him here tonight. Yeah, thanks, Sandy. We're happy that you're here. Ordinarily, we don't clap after every panelist introduction, but we'll make it an exception for Sandy. Okay, next we'll hear from Trey Smith representing SGI Buddhism, and then from Reverend Will Rucker, who's representing the Christian perspective. Then religious science is being represented from Reverend Laura Hallett from the Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas. And finally, Reverend Joan Reschke from Scientology. So we're very pleased to have them all here tonight. They're going to be super. The purpose of our forums is to hear the actual teachings of different faiths. That's one. To be in the presence of and interact with people of different religions, and to visit different houses of worship. And toward that end, I'd like to invite Anna to come forward and share a little bit about SGI Buddhist Center and offer a chant. Ordinarily, we offer a prayer of some kind, but because we're at the Buddhist Center, she'll be showing us a chant. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Alida, and good evening, everyone. On behalf of SGI USA Buddhist Center and Interfaith Council, I'm delighted to welcome you tonight and host every one of you. So thank you so much for coming here. And this is our first forum this year, so really excited to start us off. As Alida mentioned, my name is Anna Ikeda, and I'm on the board of the Interfaith Council. So thank you so much to the Interfaith Council once again, and Alida for organizing this forum especially. So you are at the SGI USA Las Vegas Buddhist Center, so I'd like to share a little bit about who we are and also about the space we're in. SGI, or Soka Gakkai, translates as Value Creating Society, and we practice Nichiren Buddhism, which I'll explain in a little bit. And our central practice or ritual is chanting the phrase Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Myoho Renge Kyo in Japanese is the title of the last set of teachings that Shakyamuni, the original Buddha, preached, which is now called the Lotus Sutra. Nam means devotion, so we are devoting ourselves to the teachings of the Lotus Sutra. In the Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni revealed the truth that every person possesses Buddhahood or enlightened nature. We could call it our innate infinite potential. It's the power with which we can tackle all of our life's problems. Then in the 13th century Japan, a priest named Nichiren studied the Lotus Sutra and established the practice of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo to activate our Buddhahood. So when we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we are calling forth our highest potential within. At the same time, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we believe, is the name of the universal law of cause and effect, which is symbolized in the Renge part, which means the lotus flower, which blooms and ceases at the same time, expressing the simultaneity of cause and effect. So when we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, we're also aligning ourselves with the law of the universe. Now, this center that you're in opened in 2009, though we had other locations in the past. Our members in Las Vegas and surrounding areas gather here for different activities where we chant together, study the writings of our teachers, and discuss how we apply the teachings to our lives and see how it manifests as concrete changes. We also meet in neighborhoods in people's homes. We call them districts. So I want to conclude by demonstrating the chanting, and I believe many of you received the card as you walked in, so you can follow along if you'd like, or just listen. We will chant the phrase Nam Myoho Renge Kyo repeatedly for a minute or so, but at the beginning and the end, we will do what we call sansho, which means to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo 3 times. So I will ring the bell, chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo 3 times, which you can also join, and then we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo repeatedly for just a couple minutes, and then I'll conclude by chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo 3 times. Please feel free to join along or just listen in, as I just mentioned. But as you do, think about how beautiful, wise, and compassionate you are and strong you are. So we already opened the altar, thank you, Hank, and chant facing the scroll. We call this the Gohonzon, and our members have smaller versions of the Gohonzons at our home. It's an object of devotion, but it really is a representation of our inner Buddhahood. So we think of it as a mirror that reflects our lives. So yeah, and also your best life, best self. So we ask that you do not take any pictures or videos of the scroll, as this is something very sacred to us. Also just want to ask you to please do not eat or drink in this space other than water. So I'm gonna just begin the chanting. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, 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 Nam Myoho Renge Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you. And I'm going to turn it over to Alita again.
Thank you, Anna, for the experience. That was beautiful. Anna is somebody who works for international peace. She's participated in NGOs at the United Nations and most recently came back from World Peace Conference in Paris. So she's great. How many of you have been, this is audience participation time. How many of you have been to a forum before? Okay, cool. How many of you have not been to a forum before? Okay, cool. All righty. So we're going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to ask you, if you feel comfortable, to please raise your hand so we get a sense of the diversity in the crowd. So if you feel comfortable, when I call the religion that I'm going to call, if you're a member of that faith, if you'd raise your hand just for fun. And we're going to start with Judaism. All righty. Thank you. The Baha'i faith. Okay. Buddhism. All righty. Catholicism. Wonderful. Christian Orthodox. Greek Orthodox. The Center for Spiritual Living, Greater Las Vegas. There we are. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you all. Christian Science. Hinduism. Humanism. Any indigenous American persons here tonight? Islam. Hello. Paganism. Protestant faiths. Wonderful. Scientology. Great. Sikh faith. Atheists. We'll see you next week. And unificationists. All right. Thank you. Anybody I missed? Okay. While we're on this subject of diversity, I want to mention that we recognize that we're standing on sacred ground of the Paiute Nation, and that not too far from here are mountains considered by them to be among the most sacred on earth. So we want to recognize our Paiute brothers and sisters. Briefly and quickly as I can, the panelists have 7 minutes in which to give their presentations. At 6 minutes, this thing rings, so I don't have to be the bad guy. Then they're speaking in the order that they're on the flyer. During our Q&A, our question and answer period, we have people who will pick up your questions. So as you are thinking of questions and they come to your mind, please raise your hand, and our people will pick them up. Allison and Nobuku are going to be on this side, and Shannon and Amy are going to be on this side, and they'll pick up your questions and bring them to me. Okay. And if you have a question, you will have a better chance of getting it answered if you ask it of one person. You have evaluations too. Those evaluations are important to us. They're how we start the basis of our topics selection for every year. So if you have suggestions for topics, please write them down. We'll be most grateful to get your suggestions. Our ground rules, first of all, we assume that our religious beliefs are our most deeply held beliefs, and therefore we're not going to try to proselytize or attempt to convert anybody here tonight. We're here to learn, to understand, not to challenge or to debate. and we've asked our panelists to speak only for themselves and not to interpret another faith or belief. And where we agree, that's great. Where we don't, that's fine. We simply agree to disagree. And so at this moment, we ask that the one who created us all, that we feel the spirit of the one who created us all as we share with everyone what we believe about the purpose of our life. Rabbi.
All right, Alita, hold the egg timer 1 second, because I want to acknowledge Alita. She's been doing this for 37 years as a labor of love, putting it together. And I'm not going to say that after 37 years, someone should know how to spell my name. I won't say that. I was tempted to say that, but I'm not going to, Alita. But other than one little glitch, you know, you've done a great job here. Oh, goodness. All right, start the egg timer. Here we go. Well, we have a topic here that is so simple in nature that I don't even think it deserves talking about. I mean, what is the purpose of life, right? I mean, we could talk about this for hours. It's something that I think is asked of us at different stages of life. When we're little, it's one thing. When we're adults, it's another. End of life, another. But it's one of those thought-provoking questions. But our task here is not to really provoke the thought, but try to give you a little bit of a sense of the core values of various religious traditions and how we might respond to that question. So the first was, why were we created? In Judaism, it teaches that human beings were created b'tselem Elohim, in the image of God. And it goes back to the story of Genesis and the creation of the first human being, and that human being, according to Jewish tradition, is created in the image of God. And this gives us a certain responsibility. It means that we are not God, but rather we seek to follow in God's path. And that is called tikkun olam. The idea that the world is broken and in need of repair is one of those fundamental values of Judaism. To follow in God's path. We are not supposed to be born and leave the world the same way we found it. We're supposed to leave it broken, better. And if you look at the world, is one of those fundamental values of Judaism. But that is called tikkun olam. When we ask ourselves, what then is the purpose of life? We had kind of a pre-meeting, and I think most of the religions were on the same path. It's really to live a meaningful life, right? To treat others with respect and dignity, to grow as a human being, and to follow in a path that leads us to live a meaningful life. So the purpose of life really was summed up by the prophet Micah, who said, what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. The purpose of life, where did we come from and where are we going? It's funny, I ask myself that every morning. And then Siri speaks to me. It says, turn right, go 300 feet, turn left. And so I think we need a spiritual GPS, don't we? Siri speaks to me. Something that turn right. This is the way you go. 300 feet, turn left. For some, it might be the Quran or it might be the Bible. I think we need a scripture GPS. But at the heart of Judaism, we would call that Torah. 300 feet, the Torah is that source of wisdom that helps us live a good life and bring direction. But at the heart of Judaism is to our own lives. We say a prayer in the morning called Modeh Ani, which is a prayer of gratitude. We thank God for life and for being alive. And when we do that, it's a reminder that our purpose in life, in pursuing God, is to remind ourselves that since we were created in the image of God, we seek then to return to God. We just celebrated the Jewish high holidays, affectionately called the World Series of Prayer, because I have to give so many sermons. And the one thing that the congregation asks is that each year I make the sermons longer and longer. So I abide by that request. And part of that means that we undergo self-reflection, which is called fishbone hanefesh. It's an accounting of who we are and where our life has been. And that takes place between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, these 10 days of awe. But it's really a process that is more concentrated during those 10 days. But throughout our lives, we're supposed to look at our lives and reflect and figure out what did we do right, what did we do wrong, and who have we been concentrated during those 10 days. But throughout our lives, we're supposed to look at manner. And so that fishbone hanefesh is really how we know whether we're on the right track or not. It's kind of a self-check. And so that fishbone or hanefesh is really, I did a mitzvah. How we know whether we're on the right track. I did something that made a difference in someone else's life. And when we can look at our lives and look up in the mirror and feel good about who we are and what we've done, that is kind of the informal test of whether we're on the right track or not. And so, look at our lives, and I'll just summarize by saying that Rabbi Nachman of Breslov once said the whole world is a very narrow bridge, and the main thing is not to be afraid. And so, it's not easy to go through life. We look for mentors, we look for guides, we look for signs, but ultimately there are times when we feel more alone than others, and other times we feel supported by a community. But in that balance of life, we are guided really when we find a sense of centeredness and a desire to walk the path of God. And by do that, as hard or as ambiguous as that might be, depending upon our stage of life and our mental outlook in life, we know that we're headed in the right track. So thank you for listening, and I see the extra 2 minutes to the next speaker. So now you have 10 minutes. That's how generous I am. So thank you for listening, and I see the extra 2 minutes to the next speaker. So now you have 10 minutes. That's how generous I am. So thank you.
I'll try not to take those 2 minutes, but I tend to be long-winded, so I apologize in advance. Alita, before we start the timer, I want to address the obvious.
That's how generous I am.
Right. The question is, did I have to shave my head as a
I'll try not to
condition
take those
of
2
being a
minutes, but I
Buddhist?
tend to be long-winded, so I apologize.
And to that, I say no, it was a
Alita,
personal
before we start the
choice,
timer,
or
I want to
more
address
honestly, a choice
the
made
obvious.
by Mother Nature.
The question is, did I have to shave my head
So,
as a
I'll try
condition?
not to. Good evening, everyone. Thank you
I
for
tend to be
being here. As
long-winded,
Alita
so I
mentioned, there are a
apologize.
lot of
To that, I
competing
say no, it was
priorities.
a personal
You could have been
choice.
anywhere tonight, but you chose to be here, so I thank you, and I look forward to sharing with you, or actually exploring with you some of those, some of life's, most profound questions through the lens of Nietzsche and Buddhism. Anna did a great job at really summarizing, what we believe and what we do, and so that makes my job a lot easier. So we'll jump right into that first question, most profound what is the purpose of life? And as the rabbi mentioned, there are a lot of summarizing, right? We do live in a broken world. Life is very difficult. And I would say that the purpose from a broad perspective is to help fix that broken world, and more specifically, contribute to world peace. Well, how do we do that?
Life is very difficult.
And I would say that so how do we do that? Well, you could say a goal, right, in that endeavor could be to become happy, right? Because how do you fix anything if you're not happy, right? And in that journey of happiness, you help others become happy. Well, you could say a goal. Well, as I mentioned, and as I don't have to really say, life is difficult, and so happiness can be very elusive. And so we have this concept called absolute happiness, and that's what we want to achieve. Happiness that's not dependent on what's going on in our environment. And so happiness can be very depending on what's going on at work or in your home, in your relationships, that all affects our happiness. This condition of absolute happiness isn't influenced by any of it. So how do we do that? What's going on at work or in your home? That we have to awaken to our Buddha nature. So what is this Buddha nature I speak of? Well, it's this inner strength, innate inner strength that we believe everyone possesses. In fact, the Lotus Sutra, one of the Buddha's most revered texts, right, he teaches in that everyone possesses this Buddha nature. And then Nichiren Daishonin, the 13th century Buddhist reformer that Anna mentioned, he recognized that this Lotus Sutra was Buddha's highest teaching, and he went on to develop Nam-myoho Renge Kyo as a way to manifest this Buddha nature. he also said that it's not a distant goal. It's not something that we have to do lifetime after lifetime and hopefully one day we'll reach enlightenment. He said that we can achieve this enlightenment. We can reveal this Buddha nature. We can reveal this inner strength right now, right? We can do it today to overcome our suffering, and we can really manifest this to experience our transformation. And so Daisaku Ikeda, he's a Buddhist leader and thinker, he expanded on this concept, and he explained that life's purpose goes beyond individual or personal enlightenment or happiness, but it includes the contribution to the peace and happiness of society. So that's what we believe the purpose of life is. And we do this through this process called human revolution. And it's this inner transformation that helps us overcome our own limitations, our own self-doubts. And when we do that, we inspire others, and this creates a ripple effect of positive change in the world. Okay, that was question number 1. So where did we come from and where are we going? Well, we believe that life is eternal and cyclical, right? It's this continuous flow of birth, death, and rebirth. And so our Buddha nature, enlightened state, remains constant through lifetimes, and after death, life enters this dormant state, kind of like sleep. And then when the conditions arise, we're reborn. Now, of course, karma, we've all heard of that term. This affects us greatly. And so karma is this law of cause and effect, the universal law, the mystic law. And so this shapes our experiences in this lifetime and any rebirth as well. And Nichiren, the 13th century Buddhist reformer, he teaches, well, he mentioned this about karma. He says, if you want to understand the causes of the past, look at your life today. And if you want to know your future, look at the causes you're making now. And so clearly, positive actions generate good karma, fostering growth, while negative actions bring challenges. And so understanding karma for us, it helps us make wise decisions, reveal our Buddha nature, become happy, help others become happy, and then live meaningful lives across lifetimes. And so what matters in life? That was question number 3. And it's about creating value, right? It's in our name, value creation society. And so we believe whether it's through kindness, through self-improvement, through contributing to society, that creating value is essential. So Daisaku Ikeda says that compassion, purpose, and a sense of mission leads to a fulfilling life. Compassion, purpose, and a sense of mission. And every individual has limitless potential. And chanting Nam-myoho Renge Kyo for us awakens this inner capacity, laying the foundation for this personal growth. And a crucial part of this journey is that human revolution that I mentioned earlier, right? This process of transforming our negative tendencies, which enables us to uplift others, thereby contributing to world peace and harmony. Nichiren said, if you light a lamp for another, it will also brighten your way. And so by consistently practicing faith, study, and community engagement, we deepen our faith and create this sense of purpose in our lives. So how do we know we're on the right track? Well, when we notice a positive change in ourselves and in our environment. Chanting helps us stay grounded, even in tough times, especially in tough times. And how we handle challenges reflects this ongoing inner transformation. Now, this is a big one, right? It's easy to be pleasant and happy and joyful in the good times, but the question is, how do we respond during adversity? So creating value at work, creating value in our families and in our communities, this is also in line with our purpose. And so Daisaku Ikeda reminds us that when we persevere, we see actual proof of our practice, whether through unshakable life force, inner peace, stronger connections, or clarity in our life's purpose. These signs reassure us that we're on the right track. And then finally, I added this question. I saw it as part of it, but it says, how can we live a life that matters despite obstacles? And I'll start by saying this. Oh, that's a 1-minute timer, right? Oh, thank goodness. All right. I'll start by, so how do we live a life that matters despite obstacles? And I'll start by saying this. Problems themselves aren't the fundamental cause of unhappiness, right? The lack of power and wisdom to solve them is the actual problem. And so maybe some of you can relate, but I've certainly encountered problems that have left me paralyzed. And so what does that look like? It could be anger, apathy, depression, anxiety, right? But for us, chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo gives us the courage to face those obstacles. It gives us the wisdom to find those solutions and the compassion to break negative patterns, right? So it's not like once we awaken our Buddha nature, that problems, stop coming, right? We just become bigger, stronger, and wiser than our problems. And we use these challenges to fuel or deepen our faith, right, and for personal growth. Daisaku Ikeda explains that when we view challenges as opportunities, we transform them into the driving force to become happier and stronger. So in summary, our purpose is to awaken to our Buddha nature and achieve absolute happiness and contribute to the happiness of others and world peace. We come from an eternal stream of life, and our actions today create value for the future. What matters is the value we create through compassion, self-improvement, and service to others. We know we're on the right path when we see improvements in our lives, whether it looks like inner peace, better relationships, and personal growth. And finally, obstacles are opportunities to grow. And with faith, practice, and community, we transform them into strengths. Thank you.
Could have brought my iPad and saved a tree. Good evening, everyone, and it's beautiful to see so many folks choosing to be here tonight.
Well, I'm going to ask, there was somebody who said, can we please ask the panelists to speak really loudly? So I'm going to take this opportunity to ask that.
Absolutely.
Should I stand up there again?
Yeah, please. That would be helpful, Sandy. Yes.
Well, Rabbi, I'm stealing a lot from you, so, we'll hear it again. Yeah. But we're here to reflect on the purpose of this life, a life that Christians believe leads to an eternal life, one without pain, without death, where love is fully realized. We often hear about the purpose of life, but the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem, says, meaningless, meaningless, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Here's the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. This is the duty of all mankind. That's the start and finish of the book of Ecclesiastes. I could end there on that wonderful, joyous, high note, but I will, in fact, dive into the topic tonight. In my faith tradition, we believe that we were created as objects of love and to reflect God. Some might say we were created to worship God. And for me, worship isn't confined to just rituals or songs. It's a way of life expressed in loving one another, in taking care of each other. God's love flows through us when we uplift the vulnerable, when we care for the stranger, the orphan, and the widow. We embody worship in our actions, in the way that we treat each other. So in short, as a collective, we were created to manifest love. And as individuals, we were created to deliver it. So the big question, the purpose of life. Each person's purpose is unique. It's as varied as the billions of us that inhabit this planet. Yet there is a shared purpose that binds us. We are called to live abundantly. And abundance, as Jesus speaks of it, isn't about accumulating wealth or status or achievements. It's a life rich with meaning, filled with experiences, and open to the depths of emotion. Emotion, which is what I call energy in motion, moves us toward one another, stirs us to compassion, and inspires to act justly and with humility. So where did we come from and where are we going? Our scriptures tell us we are moving towards a place that Jesus prepared, a new earth where we return to our truest selves, unburdened by the defenses and walls that separate us here. In this new age, we won't just talk about love, we will embody it. This life, in a sense, is our preparation, a journey of learning, of growing, of experiencing and embracing love. Ecclesiastes also says, For with much wisdom comes, wait for it, much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. So this is a journey of suffering. And then the question arises, well, what matters? At the end of the day, what truly matters is love. When we stand before God, the measure of our lives will be how deeply we cared for others, especially the least among us. It's about lifting up those who are struggling, providing for those in need, and extending our hands in generosity and kindness. Love is the purpose and the ultimate meaning of life. Love is what matters, and love is suffering. So how do we know we're on the right track? Gets a little happier here. We know we're aligned with our purpose when we start to see things differently. We begin to release grudges and forgive with ease. We find ourselves becoming more generous, more compassionate, hopeful, and joyful. In the face of life's challenges, we're patient and kind. We stand with courage and humility, knowing that we don't walk this path alone. We know we're on the right track when we demonstrate love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I'll conclude with this: living a life that matters. Living a life that matters is not about fame, wealth, or status. It's about living in love, giving ourselves to others, and walking humbly with God. May we seek to live this purpose, embracing every gift as a moment, knowing that we are a part of something greater than ourselves, and knowing that, yes, even love is political. Yes, even love is relational. Yes, even love is, dare I say, sexual. All of this is love. All of this is life. And the purpose of life is to experience it all. Thank you.
Well, I want to say thank you for everyone that's here tonight for coming out and enjoying this forum. And I want to say a special thank you to all of the people from Center for Spiritual Living Greater Las Vegas who are here. So thank you all for being here. You had to listen to me this morning, and now you get to listen to me again. So there you go. So in the brochure, it says that we are religious science. We actually retired the name religious science about 10 years ago and now call ourselves Centers for Spiritual Living because it was more of an encompassing name that described what we were doing. We believe that each one of us individually is a center for spiritual living. We are part of a religion called New Thought, which was recognized in 2015 as a world religion by the Parliament of World Religions in Salt Lake City. We practice a philosophy called Science of Mind, which is based on the text written by our founder, Ernest Holmes, back in 1926. Science of Mind is what we call a panentheistic philosophy. It is one that believes that God is in everything and everything is in God, that God shows up as all creation, but is yet so much more than any one creation could possibly be. So it's a more expansive idea about it. We believe that our thoughts are creative, that our thoughts are what bring our experiences. And as we begin to examine our thoughts and our beliefs and our intentions, we can begin to have a different experience in life. We believe that the purpose of life then is to develop our consciousness continuously so that we have a greater remembrance of who and whose we are, why we came here, and what we are here to do. Our motto for Centers for Spiritual Living is creating a world that works for everyone and all of creation. And so we strive every day to look at where it isn't working, where things are not functioning well in lives, and then do our work around that. And our work consists of two parts. One, understanding universal principles that are inherent throughout everything that we've heard here today. Universal principles have been spoken here. Love, gratitude, forgiveness, generosity of spirit, the fact that there is suffering in the world. These are all universal principles, and as we begin to understand those in our lives, we can begin to apply our spiritual practices to those to get clearer on it. And our spiritual practices, as we've talked about, prayer, meditation, contemplation, mindfulness, forgiveness, gratitude. We spend a lot of time in spiritual practice learning to look at our belief system and be able to change that. We believe that living a life that matters starts by cultivating the awareness of what we are thinking and what we're allowing it to come into our minds and how it influences our experience in life. And so when we align our thoughts with love and peace and joy and harmony, then we become conduits for those qualities in the world and creating an environment of positivity around us. We don't just sit and spend all of our time trying to be positive, though. We take a realistic look at what's happening and how can we then apply those spiritual principles to that. So for oftentimes, we need to apply forgiveness work to our practices. And so we begin to do that, forgiving first ourselves always, and then moving that forgiveness out into the world. It's a huge practice for us. Life also becomes meaningful for us when we realize that what we do affects other people around us, that we are not here in isolation, and that we are part of this cosmic whole. We consider spirit, God, the universal intelligence, we don't care what you call it, we consider that to be the macrocosm, the wholeness of the world. And we believe that each one of us is a microcosm, a small place where spirit shows up. We are allowing ourselves to be the place on which God stands right here and right now in each and every moment. And so our work is always to open out a way to let spirit come through, open out a way to allow that divine flow of intelligence, that love, that peace, that joy to come through us and be a powerful force in the world. We know that this this begins with a great deal of trust and faith in these universal principles. We have to understand that spirit is benevolent, that it is constantly unfolding itself for the highest and greatest good of all. Even when it doesn't feel like that in the moment, we begin to look at those beliefs that are around that and clear that away and get that out of our experience. Science of mind encourages us to trust in the wisdom of the universe, believing that the universe is always, always, always unfolding for our highest and greatest good. It is a benevolent force of creation in the world. And our purpose in life is to constantly live with intentionality, with awareness, with creativity and love, understanding that we are spiritual beings having a physical experience in this plane of existence, that our journey is a continuous growth, forever seeking more and more conscious union with spirit. That's the purpose of our life. That's why we are here. That's what we're created for. It's what we strive for every day as we do our practices and follow our principles and so forth that we do at Centers for Spiritual Living. It is a great way to live, and it's a great place to be. Thank you.
Wow, this is a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. I would like to say thank you to the Interfaith Council for inviting me to the open forum again this year. When I first looked at the topic for tonight's forum, I thought, whoa, such big questions to cover in only 7 minutes, but what a great opportunity to share with you all some of the things about my religion. So here goes. Why were we created and where did we come from? It's common to many religions to attempt to explain this ultimate question of where we came from and why. In 1953, the founder of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, fully described his theory of the origins of the spirit and the creation of the universe in an article called The Factors. There, he described the theory that the life force, the spirit itself, created the material universe, and he also described the purpose for that creation. As for the purpose of life, this is a quote from our creed. We of the church believe that man is basically good, that he is seeking to survive, that his survival depends upon himself and upon his fellows, and his attainment of brotherhood with the universe. In Scientology, we believe that the basic purpose of each of us is survive. This is a dynamic concept, and by dynamic,
we mean something that is characterized by constant change, activity, and progress. And when we talk about survival, it's not just scraping by or barely being alive. That's not survival. We're talking about thriving and living a meaningful life through our relationship across each of 8 dynamic parts of life. So the first dynamic, the urge toward existence as yourself, as an individual. The second dynamic is the urge to survive through creativity, including the family unit and the rearing of children. The third dynamic, survival as a group or through groups. And then the fourth dynamic, all mankind itself, not small groups within mankind, but all mankind. And then the fifth dynamic, all life forms, plants, animals, insects, fish. The sixth dynamic would be the material or physical universe. The seventh dynamic is the spiritual universe, the universe of all spiritual beings together and collectively. And then the eighth dynamic is the supreme being, survival through infinity. As an example of the use of these dynamics, think of it this way. Let's start with a baby. At birth, he's not really aware of anything beyond himself and his own needs. That's his first dynamic. But as he grows and his interests extend beyond himself, he'll start to embrace other dynamics. First, his immediate family, mom and dad, then to groups like playmates and friends, and then continuing to expand as his own personal reach for life grows. No single one of these dynamics is more important than any other. They are interconnected. You could say that the ability of an individual to reach his full potential could be measured by his degree of effective participation in creating his own dynamics. So, optimum survival would be striving to operate effectively across all 8 dynamics. A person's abilities and shortcomings can be understood by viewing their participation in various dynamics. For example, a person who is not a strong participant on the third dynamic, and again, that's groups. So a person who is not capable of participating well as part of a group, he's not going to be capable as part of a team, and you could say that he's incapable of social existence. Similarly, this incapability on that third dynamic actually reduces his survival potential across all the other dynamics because they are interconnected. When we talk about brotherhood, that's interconnection. And so what really matters? I'd say what matters is how well each of us is surviving in life, expanding our horizons, and helping one another in each of these 8 dynamics. Through study and through practicing what we've learned, we gain greater and greater ability to realize our own potential. We can also improve our ability to help others. That desire to be of service to others, to help, I think we can all agree that that is a common desire and purpose that we all share. So if you think about what matters and how we know whether or not we're on the right track, you can look at yourself through these 8 dynamic areas of existence and evaluate whether you're achieving the kind of success that gives you satisfaction and a sense of well-being. If any area is lacking, the good news is there are tools available to improve those areas. There is always something that can be done to make things better, always. Scientology is a practical religion. And through Mr. Hubbard's written and recorded works, it offers solutions to help improve the conditions of our lives, not only through study, but also through spiritual counseling. There's even a free online course called The Dynamics of Existence, which helps you learn about these 8 separate parts that make up life and how they relate to one another, and how to make correct decisions in your life with confidence. There are also other courses of study that address just one area of life in greater detail. For example, learning about parenting or having a successful marriage, how to be a good leader, or success in a work environment. How we live a life that matters, let me say that again. How can we live a life that matters when so many obstacles exist? The answer, from my perspective as a Scientologist, is to learn, to practice what you've learned, to observe and find out from your own observation what is true for you, and to do, to help. Don't just think about wanting a better life. Don't just think about wanting to help others. Do something effective, get active, participate, and you will make that happen. And that is what we believe in Scientology. Thank you.
Bravo to all of our panelists for wonderful presentations and also staying on time, which is a moderator's dream. So thank you all. That was terrific. Let's give them all a round of applause. Okay, so how we'll do this is Rabbi started us off with his presentation, and so we'll begin the questions and answers with Trey from Buddhism. And the first question is this. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Trey, is there a time when birth-death cycles end, or it continues indefinitely?
So the short answer is that it continues indefinitely. It's considered eternal and cyclical. So it does not end.
Do we merge into one great big thing sometime?
I think that we're reborn, right? Either as a human in this life or maybe something else, but the cycle continues.
Okay, thank you very much. Will, why does knowledge have to bring suffering? Oh, okay.
Whoa, okay, here we go. So knowledge brings suffering because knowledge is awareness. So if we go to the origin story, Genesis chapter 1, in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Fast forward a little bit, don't eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, because in that day you will surely die. So much we could talk about there. But to encapsulate that, the more that we know, the more that we understand, the more that we're like God. And God is infinite compassion. God is infinite love. God is love. And in that love, there is heartbreak. In that love, there is suffering. The blessing in that is also with that comes joy. And you can be joyful and heartbroken simultaneously, which is the full spectrum that I believe yin and yang and that sort of thing, that idea is embedded in that. So the more that we know, the more that we're aware, the more that we are also then in suffering.
Thank you. Laura, if God is in everything, is God in war?
Yes, God is in war. God is in everything. Just because people aren't aware of it does not mean God is not there. But God is recognized and realized when people are aware of the presence of it. God is there, but unless you're aware of it, it's not gonna seem to be there. And so, yeah, God is in war, God is in hate, God is in all of the negative things that we have out there too. It doesn't mean God's contributing to it, but God is present, fully present everywhere.
Thank you. Joan, how important is it to have a family, your own family, in finding your purpose in life? Is it absolutely necessary as one of the dynamics you described?
That's a great question. So if you consider what is a family, even if it's not your biological family, the closeness of others and that interrelationship with a very close person or people, yes, that is an important part of the dynamics that I talked about, but that wouldn't say that, let's say someone who is an orphan or who, let's say they have a family that they couldn't really be a part of. That's a choice they make, but that's still a dynamic relationship, choosing how active you would be or not be with that family. So again, a lot of it has to do with if you can study about and learn about these interrelationships, these dynamics, then you can embrace what that means to you. And honestly, it's going to mean something different to each of us to some degree on each of those dynamics, quite frankly, your groups or what is mankind to you, because it's only true for you if it really is true for you. But I hope that answered that question.
Okay, well, I hope so too.
Sort of rambled.
No, that was good. Thank you very much. Rabbi, how does the concept of chosen people shape the understanding of purpose in Judaism?
So when it comes to the concept of chosen people, just want to clarify, Judaism believes that there are other people who can be chosen as well. So it's not that we're the only chosen people. But on the other hand, maybe God could pick on someone else sometime. Little fiddler on the roof. All right. So we believe in the concept called Or Lagoyim, which means to be a light unto the nations. And that is the kind of flip side of chosenness. So even though that we are chosen, the idea is that we are chosen to follow God's commandments and follow in the path of godliness. There is actually a midrash that says that the Jews are gathering, and after God offered the scriptures to all the people in the world and they said no, he took a mountain and held it over the Jews' head and said, how about you guys? Would you like to accept these commandments? In other words, God made us an offer we couldn't refuse. And so this whole idea of chosenness is really, in one sense, a heavy burden and also a responsibility. And therefore, we are called really to live exemplary lives, and that reflects that idea of chosenness.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we'll start with Will on a question for everybody. And it is, why do you think addictions are so prevalent in American society? Everyone is either a workaholic, an alcoholic, a shopaholic, a drug addict, gambling addict, sex addict, or compulsive eater. What do all these mass addictions suggest is needed in our culture and to our sense of being able to fill or find our purpose?
Great question. And I would expand that. I have had the privilege of traveling across the globe, and these issues in some form, some fashion, are absolutely universal. There can even be an addiction to community, to relationships, to things that we view as positive. And I just recalled you said stand up, but no one else did, so I'm keeping my seat.
Oh, okay. I had invited the panelists to stand up because it's harder to think on your feet. No, that's not why. Just because sometimes it's more energy, but they've decided not to. So here we are, sitting down.
So to the issue of all of those addictions, particularly in the areas of workaholic and substance abuse and misuse and those sort of things, we could call that God-shaped hole in the heart. You've probably heard, preachers say that sort of thing. And what we're really longing for is fulfillment. We're really longing for that purpose, that meaning in life. And we find that expressed in different ways. The key to all of it is moderation. And our scriptures tell us that nothing is unlawful except to him who says it is. And if you do anything in moderation, it's kind of okay. So that's where I will leave it and let others expand.
Okay, thank you. Laura?
I think that addictions are so prevalent because we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten that we are a presence of the divine here on earth. And so we are looking at other things to fill that void that is created when we forget that where we came from, who we are, and why we're here, what our purpose is. And so I think as we begin to, again, develop our conscious union with Spirit, remember who we are and why we're here, then I think the addictions fall away. I know for me personally, many things have fallen away when I have gotten closer to Spirit, when I've understood my divine presence here on earth, that I am the place where God shows up right here and right now. When I remember that, I don't need to add anything else to me. And so the addictions fall away.
All right, well, on my part, I feel that the prevalence of addiction across those many areas, it's from ignorance. Because if you truly understand even the nature of yourself or the nature of others, the more you learn, like I'm learning from all of you tonight, but the more you understand the principles of life, the more you understand interrelationships, the more you understand your relationship with God or your relationship with the people that you work with or the why of it all, the more that you understand what drugs are, for example, and how does one get addicted, there's so much to know. So it is ignorance, I feel very strongly, that leads to any kind of addiction. And our education system needs reform. There are a lot of things that are going to relate to that, but I feel it's ultimately ignorance.
Thank you. Sandy? Hey! Thank
See, I can follow directions.
you can, it's amazing.
Not all the time. Short answer, longer answer. Short answer is, I think there are certain things that interconnect to our biology, right? It's biological. Whether it's any of those addictions, it just does something to your brain that makes you want it more and more and more. But longer answer is, we have within us what I call this oi. And this is how you do it. You go, oi. Right? There's something that's lacking in our life. And perhaps one of the purposes is to find a way to fill that void. And we might look for the shortcut, which is the addiction, whether it's sex or chocolate or shopaholic or whatever it is. We think that that will make us feel better. And in that moment, it does for a moment. But then the oi is still there. And so until we find a way, and it's hard work sometimes, it's hard work to fulfill that oi and make it joy, we're going to be addicted. Classic story. There is a rabbi, not me, but could be. And the disciples go to the rabbi and said, Rabbi, we love you, we love you, we love you. And the rabbi looks at him and says, you love me? He says, yeah, we love you. He says, well, what is it that gives me pain? We don't know. He says, then you cannot truly love me. You know, love and pain, they're connected. There's a certain power that we give other people when we allow them to enter into our circle of love. And so it's scary, and there's a bit of fear and vulnerability. So why not take a shortcut? And in taking that shortcut to try to find love or to fill that oi, we get ourselves in trouble and we go down a rabbit hole. And so I think all of these paths are a way to say, hey guys, wake up. Do an accounting of oneself. Do the difficult work, because it is work. And that way we can improve our lives permanently and not just in the short term. Thank you.
Thank you.
See? Listen, you make me stand up, it gets longer. Okay.
Okay. I'll remember that, yeah.
So I believe what contributes to a lot of the addictions, I mean, could be a lot of things. We think about the decline in community, the decline in spirituality, the rapid advancement of technology, right? And this instant gratification, you know, what should we call it? Epidemic. But the reality is these things are here to stay, right? We can improve in spirituality, and that's what we endeavor to do. But from our faith, how we respond to those things is what matters. And how we respond to those things depends on our life condition, right? And, we have these 10 worlds, and I won't go into them, but you can imagine at the very bottom is the world of hell. And that's not somewhere you go, that's somewhere you live right here on earth, right? It's your state of life, your life force. It's in hell. And at the very top is this life condition called Buddhahood, right? That's when you're enlightened and nothing phases you. And the reality is that we have all of these factors in life, some of which I just named, that influence how we feel at any given moment. And so for us, as we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo and really try to manifest this Buddha nature, right, we elevate our life condition. So in turn, how we respond, right, to these external stimulus changes for the positive, right? And so I can speak from a personal perspective that I've been in the dumps and I've suffered, with depression and anxiety. And this is when I wasn't chanting, right? And so from my faith perspective, as I chanted and I served others and I really started to put this practice into practice, then my life condition elevated and my response to all of these external, stimuli changed. So that's how I answer that question.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll start now a round of individual questions with Laura Hallett. Laura, the question is, can you share how the law of attraction is related to discovering and fulfilling one's life purpose?
The law of attraction has a lot to do with looking at what we think and how our beliefs and not just our thoughts, but the intention that's behind the thoughts, the emotions that's behind the thoughts. You can think a thought, like even a negative thought, like, oh my goodness, I hope I don't get into an accident. But if there's no emotion behind it, there's no intention behind it, it's not going to manifest. But if you think that and you've got all of the fear built up around you in that, then the law of attraction is going to bring that into your experience. And the same thing with any of the positive aspects of it. I can say every day, I've got $1 million in the bank. But if it's something in the back of my mind is saying, yeah, right, it's never going to happen. But I can say I am a prosperous, open to receiving all of the impress of good that is available to me, and I get some emotion behind that, then that law of attraction is going to be working for me. And so the law of attraction in its simplest form is you just keep repeating things over and over again, and you say, well, that's what I'm going to have. But if there's nothing behind it, there's no intention and there's no belief behind it, then the law of attraction doesn't do anything for you. And so that's pretty much that, I think.
Thank you very much. Joan, I think people have heard a lot about auditing in Scientology, and the question is, can you share how the auditing process in Scientology helps people uncover their true purpose? Can you say what auditing is?
Yes, so auditing, is this, hello? Okay. Auditing is the spiritual counseling in Scientology. I'm actually.
Okay,
I
thank
want
you.
to see y'all. Okay. Auditing is what we call spiritual counseling. Auditing means to listen. To audit is to listen. And an auditor is trained in very specific procedures that involve asking a person questions, and then that person looks. So if I am being audited, my auditor might ask me a question, and I'm not evaluated for. It isn't, this is why you're acting that way. And I'm being asked a question and looked into myself to understand better what's happening and then actually realize the root of some sort of discomfort or some situation that's not optimum. And it's through that process that you actually realize what can be done about that situation, but it's within you. And so that's the auditor's job. It's to ask and, lead the way down this. These are the questions that you'll be asked, but it's a very simple process. As far as how that can help you find your purpose, I know for me, I remember when I realized for myself what it was my own personal purpose regarding survival and what I knew kind of my calling was. And it was achieved because of the auditing that I had starting even when I was a little girl, and becoming more and more aware of my own spirituality and my responsibility to others, and the fact that I was never a victim. And it was a very empowering thing, and that is the other thing about this. You are empowered through auditing to be yourself more and more, and not act ways or do things that's not really your true nature. So, there you go.
Thank you very much. Okay, Rabbi, this one's for you. How is it that someone can be culturally Jewish but not religiously or spiritually Jewish?
I'm going to go get a bagel and I'll be right back. Because those are kind of value-laden terms. When someone says, I'm religious, they have a vision of what that means. Or they'll go, I'm not really religious, I'm spiritual. Right? What does that mean? They don't want to prescribe to some kind of organized religion. I keep telling them I'm very disorganized. You know, come, follow me. And sometimes it works. So people kind of self-define. Sometimes they think, okay, I got to follow all the rules and regulations, and I'm Orthodox, and therefore I'm more authentic as a Jew. And others are, well, I grew up Orthodox, but I left that, but I'm very much a cultural Jew, which means I identify with the Jewish people. I like, you know, the bagels and schmear and the accoutrements of Jewish living and life, but they're still proud in their Judaism. And then there are other people, more and more so the younger people, who don't want to follow organized religion, and they'll just say, but I'm spiritual. And I love them all, but I still think it's a cop-out. Because even though they claim to be spiritual, they're really not doing anything about it. Do you have a practice that you follow? Do you have a set of values that you embrace? Or is it just a response that you say that you're just kind of taking a little thing from all the different religions in the world, something that sounds like a spiritual fortune cookie, and therefore, you know, that's what I believe today. Anyways, if you want the longer answer, it was my Yom Kippur sermon, so you could go right on my website and listen to the whole thing, all right, all 30 minutes of it. But that's basically it. Some of it is self-defined, and some of it is really how Jews have become more assimilated, and as that has happened, they've defined themselves more culturally. There you go.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, you can do it. I love it. I may be Jewish, but I'm a ham, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Rabbi. This is for Trey. Can you comment on how we can bear the unbearable?
I'm going to take a moment to think about that. And in the meantime, I want to address that first question that I was asked about the eternal nature of life. I answered it quite literally. Yes, it goes on. It goes on forever. But I think there's probably a more salient point in there. And that is recognizing this eternal nature of life, right? And that our karma really affects this whole cycle, right? We talked about good karma, good causes, bad karma, bad causes, bad karma. And so, of course, that, you know, that really helps us make decisions in this lifetime, right? Because we want to accumulate good karma for this lifetime, good causes, and also for our next life. But I think another important point is that it also serves to explain why life is so hard, even though I'm doing all of these good things, right? Because we're not aware of all the karma that we may have accumulated in past lives. And so I thought that was worth mentioning. Okay, now what was the next question?
Did we give him the next question or not?
Okay, no, I'm good there.
Okay, no, it is. Can you comment on how we can bear the unbearable?
Oh, yes.
You may have just answered it. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
well, I think I answered it in my second question. It's related to this idea of addiction and, mental challenges. I think it's a very similar answer. I think when life is unbearable, we have to dig deep, right? And that's easy to say, how do you dig deep? But for us, it's really challenging ourselves in this practice. And through, really challenging ourselves and elevating our life condition, these seemingly impossible challenges become possible. Now, when we're chanting, we're really trying to cultivate this Buddha nature, and that's wisdom, it's courage, it's compassion. And in our deluded selves, right, our ordinary minds, it might seem impossible. But when we chant and things seem impossible, right, and we elevate our life condition, that's how we get through the most difficult of times. Thank you.
Thank you. Will, this one's for you. How do we benefit by fearing God? I think you mentioned fearing God.
All right. So how do we benefit? So I want to unpack the word fear for a moment. When we hear fear, I mean, we're in the Halloween season, right? So, that is not quite what that fear means. That fear is a reverence or respect. How do we benefit from that? Well, each of us is a gift, and God gave gifts to all of us. So when we show up as and how we are actually showing that reverence to God. So some of us, our hands, we're really great at doing the thing. Well, that's our fear of God. Some of us are feet. We're really great at getting folks places. That's our fear of God. Some of us are hair follicles who have also fallen out. There's a purpose in all of that. So we benefit from fearing God by just really embracing who, how, what we are. And that then benefits all of us. Because imagine if you didn't have all of your pieces. You wouldn't be whole, right? Very literal, very obvious. Well, some pieces are not activated in our world today, which is why we see so much pain, why we see things as unbearable, to kind of go to the addiction piece. All of that has to kind of work together. So when we're fearing God, we're living our purpose, and that's the benefit to ourselves and to each other because we are ultimately one body.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to give our panelists a chance to either answer this question or to make a closing comment. And the closing comment could just be something you want to share with people or something that you wish you would have said before in an answer to another question. So what does your faith say is the most important thing to do on this earth? And what is the worst thing we can do on this earth? Okay, well, actually, how nice, because you're the first one. Go. That's perfect.
I was thinking while you were talking. So would you say all that again?
Yeah. What does your faith say is the most important thing to do on this earth? And what is the worst thing you can do?
So the best thing and the most valuable thing you can do is to be of service to others. You are as valuable as you have helped others. The worst thing you can do is make someone else guilty of having done something that they're ashamed of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you can take that to the bank.
I know, and it's true.
Thank you.
For our religion.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to, Sandy, your turn.
So there was this absent-minded person, couldn't remember anything. What was the question? No.
Oh.
So he decided before he went to bed, he'd write himself notes. Here's where my glasses are, here's where my keys are, here's where my shoes are, and so forth and so on. Pretty good. He's confident when he wakes up, he's going to know where everything is. Goes to sleep, is at peace, wakes up, finds the pieces of paper, and he finds his shoes and his glasses and his pants and his shirt, and he is just so happy for a moment. He said, "Dear God, I know all my possessions are, but I don't remember where I am. And so I think my final message is figure out where you are in life. And if you can do that and find your sense of joy and your sense of purpose, I think that's what we're asked of. That's the responsibility we're given. And perhaps, maybe, I don't know if worse is the right word, but not so good would be to be indifferent. Don't be a person who is indifferent. Don't be indifferent to suffering. Don't be indifferent to the world in which we live. Don't be indifferent to the problems of the world saying they are too great. Wake up, find out where you are, do something about it, and let that spiritual GPS guide you so you can find your way. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the most important thing from the perspective of Nichiren Buddhism is to awaken to our vow, right? And so in our teachings, we believe that we were reborn in this lifetime during this time, right, of this broken world to lead others to happiness, right? It's such a difficult time in the existence of our species to live. And we believe that we were reborn as bodhisattvas of the earth, right? Enlightened beings to help lead others to happiness. And so I think the best thing we can do is really awaken to that vow and commit to it in the service of others. And I think the worst thing we can do is the opposite, to do nothing, because there's a karmic action to that too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to reverse the order of the questions.
Okay, good.
Our sacred text says, the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. It also says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose their soul? And that, for me, losing your soul, for my faith, is the worst thing we could do. What does losing your soul look like? It looks like saying the number one thing that matters to me is money. That's the worst. The best thing we can do, and I'll use a quote to to illustrate that. I close every podcast I host, every radio show, by saying, you are not just a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop, and what you do matters. So live compassionately. Our faith says that God is love, and whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. So you are not just a spark of God. You are all that God is in a spark. And so the best thing you can do is be love.
Thank you.
I think I could say ditto. The best thing that you can do is to awaken to your spiritual magnificence, to remember that you are that presence where God shows up, that you are that place of consciousness here on earth. That's what you're here for. And I think the opposite of that is the worst thing that you can do is to forget who you are, to forget your magnificence, to forget that you are a creation of the divine, something that so loved the world that it could do nothing else but create a magnificent thing that you are. And so I think that's our purpose in life, is to absolutely remember our spiritual magnificence all the time.
Well, I want to say bravo to everyone. This has been wonderful. And please read the brief bios, because each one of these people are gems and also humble. And we're very lucky that we were able to hear from all of them tonight. So let's give them one more big round of applause. And please don't forget the evaluations. We really do use them and we need them. And we hope that we'll see you next week at the Baha'i Center. And we're going to talk more about suffering. Yay. But it will be good. It's going to be great. We're going to have our first Paiute presentation that night, so I'm really excited about that. Go enjoy yourself, have some refreshments, and thank you all.
So what I'd say is, if I took you to an opera, you knew a lot about opera, you would be in heaven. But if you didn't know anything about opera, you would be in hell. So the idea is that we're trying to purify ourselves in the sense of godliness. We just wanted to say, let me just finish the metaphor. Hold on. We just want to purify ourselves in such a way that we can understand and appreciate the way that we live. And that's what I was thinking about, right? It's not that, you're going upstairs or downstairs, it's you're changing your physical state of spiritual being.